Haley here, and we are here for yet another of the Holistic Creative Chats. And today I am here with Jes Gordon from Atlanta, Georgia. Yay! So, Jes, we're here talking all things art and healing, and how could I not invite you, my friend, to talk about this stuff, because this is your passion as well. And so if you could just begin by talking a little bit about your art or creative history and maybe your healing process history and how those things have combined. Just give us a little clue into that.
Sure. Well, I think that it's kind of interesting to think of which came first, the chicken or the egg. I went to school for art, but I think I used art for healing before that. And then what happened for me actually in school was I stopped using art for healing in school because it became very intellectual. We were studying art speak and art history and having criticisms in classes, and you had to validate your work and you had to make sure that it hadn't been done before, and if it had been done before, why you were doing it now and why it was different, and lots of justification. So I think at that point my art diverged from an art and healing thing. But as a teenager, I had my thyroid removed because I had Graves' disease. So I was on an emotional roller coaster just because of being on a hormonal coaster. And so a lot of art got produced through those years and writing, and I expressed myself a lot in those dark teenage years, and that's probably what got me into art school, with some of that work. And then, I think that after school I tried to pursue my painting career, and I was, had some shows and sold some work, and things were moving in a direction, just sort of an average art career as far as that's concerned. But it was painful, I have to say. And so I kind of never really put it down 100%, but I pursued other things to make money, of course. And my father got sick. And when my father was there's nothing else they could do for his cancer, Johns Hopkins actually mentioned that he tried to, while he's going through these chemos and these different experimental medicines, that he, try a creative practice of some sort, some kind of, there was an NIH study, and they were seeing some results of people who are creative while they're going through chemo kind of reactions. And so they suggested it to him. And then he went to a medical intuitive, and she said that his cancer is creatively blocked energy. This was back in 2005. I wasn't healed yet as far as my art career coming together. So my father set up this paint by number and never touched it, and he passed away in 2005. So I kind of feel like he has been dripping these messages to me that I need to create in order to heal myself. And because my father was such a helper and so out there in the world and universe helping other people, I kind of feel like he's asking me to help other people help themselves as well. So for me, it's a life passion based on my father. My mother passed away in 2009, and she was only 62, and she was an artist who wasn't creating anymore either. And I feel like that made her end of life sicker and more painful as well. So for me, it's, if I don't do this, I'm not well. It's my lifeline, so it can't be about justification. It can't be about criticism. It can't be about art history. It can't really be about the art world. It's got to be about me. And I've just been healing and creating ever since, and I actually stumbled into painting my thyroid. So I'm painting an energetic thyroid to try to paint it back into existence, and
Mm.
Um, for me, there is no difference. Art and healing are the same exact thing. There's no difference.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing so much of that. What a powerful and just transformational story you've gone through, and I guess I'm so inspired right now. I mean, I had chills while you were telling your lineage, because really that's what's happening, is that you're receiving these really important messages literally through your bloodline and your lineage and your family. And we can so easily we can pass those things over and not learn from them, but you're saying no, this is very, very clear, and I'm an artist and I have to take this back. I have to take back what this means.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the piece that you said about feeling like your father, and forgive me if I say it wrong, but is like messaging you in some way that you're meant to use this to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And how deeply powerful that is to be really quite literally guided by spirit in that way, is how I see it, or how I would put words to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, thank you. Thank you for listening to that work and letting it start to move through you in your life and manifest. And that's so inspiring.
Thank you.
And I love that you have intuitively in your work, because your work, like you said, has to be for you. And you know that you've just so intuitively come right to dealing directly with what has been happening in your own body in this life. Graves' disease is in my family as well too, and it's no small thing. It's hormonal. Hormonal affects everything. Everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Well,
And
and the medical community basically told me that without my thyroid, with good blood levels, taking my medicine every day, being a good girl and eating the right foods and exercising, the best I can hope for is fatigue and anxiety for the rest of my life. So if I don't do other things, the medical community gave up on me because they healed me because I'm no longer at death's door, right? So I'm healed as far as they're concerned, which is great. And thank you. I'm so grateful for that. I'm not putting down that part of it at all because I am better. But there's more I can do.
there is more, and it brings up that, to me, it's an interesting conversation, and there's no solid answers here. And I know you've gone through this in your own mind too, Jess. But it's this notion of how is healing actually different from curing? Because I would say that they cured you.
Mm-hmm.
They cured you of the disease. And of course, symptoms may be something you live with for the rest of your life without your thyroid, or at least part of your thyroid, however much they removed. But that's not necessarily healing. The healing is coming through your willingness to face this, and face it creatively, face it through what is already your natural way of expressing things in the world. And it's a process. Healing is never something that is done. Whereas we can say curing maybe sometimes has an endpoint and can be measured that way. But healing is a process and a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful part of it, is that what better way to recognize that this is just a journey rather than a destination. And if we all focus less on the destination, then we get to experience the joy now.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
So.
And also it becomes, I'm sure you've experienced this too, but having a creative, expressive practice of some kind becomes a way to express your frustration when things like the Western medical system, it's not healthcare, it's sick care. I mean, to be quite honest, and that's what it is. And like you said, they gave up on you. They were done. They did what they could, and they said, here's the best you can hope for. And something inside of you again said, okay, thank you. But there's more. And I know there is. And you went on a seeking journey of your own, and are still living that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And discovering more and more as I go on, because and I don't know, I actually look at it kind of, this is going to sound weird, but kind of as a blessing that it is something that's hormonal and that changes with me, because I can't ever be complacent. So as I have grown, because I went through, puberty, because puberty was late for me because I was Graves' disease, and so everything was like really, really delayed, and I went through childbirth and I'll go through menopause and I'll go through all these different changes in my life and I have to stay on top of my body. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a blessing because, we can get pretty complacent and then all of a sudden something smacks us in the face and we're like, what is that? That came from nowhere. And
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't really want to face it or make changes until we're sick,
yes.
until we're knocked down and the body
Hmm.
says, no, you have to pay attention.
Right, right,
So,
right. Sure.
hmm so how long would you say you've been working with, quite literally, the thyroid theme in your painting work now?
The thyroid thing is probably fairly new. I would say I discovered it maybe about a year and a half ago.
Mm.
Um, I it might even be less than that. It might have just be a year ago, but I got addicted to the circle in Connie Husvika's class
Mm-hmm.
in Big. We had to do shape paintings, and I got completely addicted to the circle. And then the circle started making these shapes, and these shapes started forming these butterfly shapes. I go, oh, that's pretty familiar, isn't
Yeah.
it? And then I started looking at the thyroid, in cadavers and saw that they're actually made up of these little nodules. And so they're made up of circles.
Yes.
And there I was painting the thyroid without knowing that that's what I was painting.
Oh,
And
intuitively.
intuitively, completely, like I had no thought of it whatsoever. I discovered the thyroid in my painting.
Oh, I
So,
love that. And this is not a new thing. I think it's important to voice that. What
mhm,
you have found in your own practice, I mean, Carl Jung was doing this with his work. Bernie Siegel uses it to help diagnose his families and patients too. I mean, it's
yes.
fascinating that we literally intuitively, once we tap into a real flow with our creative expression, these images start coming up on the page that are important and that have clues to what's going
Hmm.
on in our body. And
Hmm.
I just love that you're a walking, living example of that and working with that so much.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting to be able to have such an honest, pure story.
Yeah.
Like I did not plan it, and here it is. I can show you my progression. I can actually show you painting to painting to painting of how it developed, and then where the idea hit. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. And then the exploration after that. It's like it's pretty fun to have this sort of tangible story
Mm-hmm.
um, that I can look at.
And so tell me, if there have been, or if you could put to words, what has transformed or changed literally in you, as in your life, your body, or your perspective with that practice?
Oh God. Um, I think the most change and the way that I was able to start painting the thyroid was the more regular practice. I think
Mm.
that for me is the most important component is daily. If you can't do daily, at least several times a week, um, of I don't even care if it's 5 minutes of doodling,
Mm-hmm.
just that daily connection where you kind of bliss out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's liquid color. I'm addicted to liquid color, and it's just the squishing of it, the moving it on the page, the brushes, it's a literal addiction for me. So, you know, feeding that love, that joy, every day, I think is where things can then unfold,
Mm-hmm.
and open up. And for me, what's happened is it's a stress management tool.
Yeah.
It's a caretaking tool. I feel more open to my relationships with others, meaning my husband and my son mostly. Like I'm a homeschooling mom, so my time is, shared
Yeah.
a lot. And it's like this giving back to myself kind of thing. And I
Mm.
think that's been the most beautiful part because, any kind of autoimmune disease, it's a beating up of the self, right?
Yeah.
So it's a stress happens out here, and some people explode all over you and everybody else, and some people implode over themselves,
Yeah.
and I'm an imploder, and so this is a way for me to release and start to. I mean, my periods have gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
I've less pain. I have less migraines. Um, I opened up to. I've been a vegan all my or vegetarian all my life, and um, I never wanted to take the Armour thyroid, but for some reason, painting the thyroid, it just kind of clicked that this is something I need to do for myself, for my health, for my well-being, and I'm very thankful to the pigs and the bovine that out there that are making my medicine, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm changing. I've been feeling healthier, so I made that shift after I started painting the thyroid, around the
Sure.
same time. So I don't know. It was just I think my mind has opened up to other things and allowed for more healing and
It
more
feels
comfort.
feels like an opening for sure. The way you speak about it, and it's you're taking that love and turning it on yourself, like
Mhm.
rather than imploding, like you said, towards
Mhm.
yourself. And that is so beautiful, right there. That is just such deep healing work on so many levels.
And I have to say, my hand was like the main motivation was I was painting more, right? And my hand was cramping,
Mm-hmm.
getting stuck with the paintbrush.
Hmm.
And that's not okay. This hand needs to be able to work for a really long time.
Right.
So, because I was painting more, I had that pain because, so there's lots of things that have
Hmm.
attributed to just being aware and taking care,
Mm-hmm.
like first you have the awareness has to be there. And I think that it's been delivered to me in many, many ways. And I'm more apt to do something about it right away while I'm doing this practice because it's more in my face. Because every time I go back to sketch or every time I go back to paint, some of these same themes keep coming up. And I want to discover what this means because I can't stop painting the same thing over and over again. And what does this mean? And then I make a
Sure.
new discovery.
I love how deeply curious you are about your own process in it, and what I hear is that curiosity is so pure, and it's really coming from the fact that you have felt. And I would venture to say an embodied feeling of how this process has opened you up
Mm-hmm.
physically and spiritually and emotionally, and it's
Oh,
affected all facets of your life. It's very holistic for you.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Mm. So inspiring, Jess.
Thank you.
So I got one more question for you before we wrap
Sure.
up today. How do you define healing today? We touched on this a little, but
How do I define healing? Um, hmm. I've always heard these terms like happy, healthy, and free. Um, you know, joyous and free. There's always been these terms, and I think that healing is allowing as much joy in as possible
mm,
because, and I think that means threefold: spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Um, I can actually, I mean, joy is such a great word, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Oh
because
yeah,
it's not just happy,
mm-hmm.
it's not just smiling, it's this deep satisfaction that you can actually feel in your toes because
Yeah,
they tingle. And I look at it like um, a drop in the bucket. I'm thinking of my mom as I'm saying this because she would talk about the fact that your meditation is just a drop in the bucket. Nothing ever comes out of it. You're just adding to it all the time. And there's no evaporation. And I look at it like that every moment of joy that I can experience is a drop in the joy bucket. And
mm,
and whether or not I'm feeling it physically in my body or I'm just spiritually floating through the day or my emotions are just, full of love and joy and I can feel it, oozing out of my heart. Those are all different experiences of joy and they're all drops in the bucket. And every moment that I feel that is a moment in the healing bucket, the joy bucket, the whatever bucket you want to call it.
yes,
But I really feel like that's what the healing process is all about. And a lot of times we block ourselves from joy for all different kinds of bizarre reasons that we've and they were there like these buttons. And that's the other thing that I think is really important is I'm discovering how gentle I have to be with myself. It's like
Yes.
these things were installed to protect me.
Yes.
Like the gremlins that, from the critiques from art school and all that kind of stuff. It was installed there to protect me, not to hurt me. So there's nothing in my body that's like out to get me. Everything that's in me is there for a reason. And if I can make friends with it and understand why it's there, that's when I think the true healing, joy, like that's when all that stuff really happens. It's when I resist it. It's when I don't know, feel like I'm beating myself up for something, or all that kind of stuff. When I'm not honoring all the different parts of me,
Yeah.
I think that that's where the sickness, the disease, and all that kind of stuff comes in. And how do I unfold that? I unfold that by, caring for me in the ways that feel right to me. And that's the other thing, is we're not all the same, So, I mean, even in my household, I was raised a vegetarian. I've been with my husband. We've been together, 20 years total. So we've been living together for that long. So it's like he eats meat like it's going out of style, and I've been a vegetarian my whole life. And it's like, he's on this super paleo diet kind of thing now. So he's just eating vegetables and meat. And, right. I was like, yeah, not me.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, is that the same program isn't for all of us.
Exactly.
But the same intention can be there. So I'm going to eat food that makes me feel healthy. I'm going to do exercise or activity that makes me feel healthy. I'm going to do a creative practice that makes me feel good. Because my husband's a musician, and my son, I think he's an actor. So
that's fantastic.
So we have 3 different disciplines in one household. So.
That's beautiful, Jes. So healing, I love the drop in the bucket, the joy piece, and it feels like you just have such a holistic view of it, and I feel deeply that is the key right there too. It's just remaining open to the fact that your truth is going to look very different from anybody else's truth, and that even the things that we could label or judge or name as bad or negative, that those too are parts of the gift if we just remain open to seeing the fullness of how they can affect us. And that joy, that's where the joy comes in, is when we remain open. Drops in the bucket. Buckets of color, ma'am. Yeah. Drops in the buckets of color.
I wonder if my mom's responsible in some way for that name.
That's beautiful. I love that. And that is Jes's website, Buckets of Color, and I'll be sure to put a link right below the video. So thank you, Jes, so much for taking this time to chat with us today.
Thank you. It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Pure pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye.